Today's video is brought to you by E.Cade and Mammoth Headwear. Find a store or hat that fits you today. Hey YouTube, Common Collector here, and today I'm going to be bringing you guys my first deck profile since I got back into YouTubing here. So it seemed like you guys really enjoyed my box opening that I did for Legacy of Destruction. If you guys haven't seen that yet, please go ahead and check that out. But thank you guys again for just sticking with me, coming back to the channel as I've been uploading again. Today we're going to be doing a deck profile for Swordsoul. I just tied for first with this. You know, it's a little embarrassing to say that I tied for first, but me and my buddy Izzy, we tied yesterday. He was playing Fire King Snake Eyes, and I was playing Swordsoul. But over the last couple months, I've been doing really good with this deck. So now that we have Protos back off of the ban list or just on limited now, it seems like a great time to, give you guys an update on this. And also a quick shout out to the other guys at Locals who play Swordsoul. That'd be Matt and Cole. Just shout out to those guys because we've been having a lot of fun playing with this deck as of late. So anyways, let's get on into this. So we've got 3 copies of Moyi. We're going to have pretty standard ratios for the Swordsoul and the 10-Yi cards. So we've got the 3 copies here of Moyi. Lets you reveal a Swordsoul or a Worm from hand to get your token, and then also helps you with your chain blocking for your Chi Xiao, which is just amazing. Then we're going on into our 3 copies of Longyun. Gotta love his burn damage. I was actually going into time in my game where I was against the guy that I tied with, Izzy, and I was not able to get my Longyun to burn him for time, which was really embarrassing, so we just ended up going for the tie there. We're going to go into 2 copies of Taya. Absolutely love this card. This card is the one that just lets you win games when you're getting into those grindy ones, and this is a deck that really does end up creating a lot of those grindy games, which is why I really like playing this deck. It seems like I get a lot more interaction going, because usually my opponent is able to somewhat break my board, and I'm able to give them some interruption, and then I top deck Taya or Emergence or some way to get into that, or into another Moyi, and I have a card in hand, and it just feels really good being able to go into those grinds and sort of have those comebacks. And then Taya is just really great for helping to set up Vashuda in graveyard or whatever else you need. Then we've got our 3 copies of Incredible Ecclesia. I always like playing 3 copies of this. Some people try to drop it to 2, but overall it's really nice. And again, just for that sort of that comeback factor, if you top deck that card and you can go into Taya, it is just amazing. 3 copies of Ashuna. This card is obviously necessary for getting into your Chowfang plays and just other stuff. Definitely like playing it at 3. You never want to cut that down to 2. Then we're going into 2 copies of Vashuda. Again, pretty standard ratios. 2 copies of Adhara and 1 copy of Shathana. I do not play the Mapara, which people have been playing. And then here is the big boy Protos. So my thoughts on playing the Mapara, I think that people are kind of coping if you're playing with that card. In general, I think that playing the fire in the deck just so that you can lock out fires, it makes sense. And I tried it out, and I was actually siding Shathana just because I didn't have the space to be able to play all of the 10-Yi names. So I was siding Shathana for about 4 days, and then in all of my testing and I think 1 locals, I didn't like it. So instead, I just took it out of the deck, and it's been perfectly fine. You have plenty of other fires in the deck. I believe that we have 4 different fires, 2 in the main and 2 in the extra deck to be able to go into for a fire so that you can lock out Snake Eyes decks. So definitely you don't need it in the main deck. And then we have Protos, which is just amazing. Helps you to lock out generally fire or dark decks. Those are sort of the big ones. But the other amazing thing is that you can just have Shathana on board or a Moyi to be able to lock out waters, and then that is a really big play to do against other Swordsoul decks. So that's just really incredible to be able to use Protos. Those are sort of, I would say, the 3 big attributes. Like I said, I've got a couple of guys at Locals who also play Swordsoul, and it's been pretty incredible just trying to figure out how to navigate your turns. Am I going to try to lock them out of their Protos? Am I going to lock them out of waters, which is generally the best play? And then also having Chthona in the deck also just comes up with some really incredible plays when like you've got Monk on the field, and if your opponent's not paying attention and you have Chthona in grave, I mean, once you understand how to play Swordsoul, it just makes you really, really pay attention to those kind of small plays, because you want to get your Chthona set up in grave. That way, if your Monk gets run over, it can really just change the tempo of the battle phase. Being able to special back the Monk and blow up one of your opponent's monsters is just really incredible. We've got our 3 copies of Ash Blossom, which is also a fire, so it is kind of relevant. Every now and then you might normal summon Ash Blossom to be able to lock your opponent out of fires, but also is just incredible in here as a normal summon to be able to go into Yazi, and then obviously your normal play, which is just stopping your opponent from searching or specialing from deck or sending something to the grave. 3 copies of Nibiru, obviously love this card. I'm not playing Crossout Designator or anything like that. That card just always feels really cloggy to me, so I don't like playing that or building my deck around it. Getting on into the spells, we have 3 copies of Swordsoul Emergence. For anybody who's kind of new to the Swordsoul deck, this card can let you search for Protos while you have a Synchro monster on the field, and your Synchro Chichao is able to help you search for this. So overall, this card is just really incredible. Then we're playing 1 copy of the Swordsoul Sacred Summit. Like I said, I really love Taya, and in general, when you can go for like Moyi, when it's sent to graveyard, you go into Chichao, you search for Longyun, and if you have Taya in hand, then you pitch your Taya to grave, and or if one of those searches, you make your either your Longyun or your Taya or your Sacred Summit as your search off your Chichao for whatever piece you're missing, and you pitch Taya to grave. You use Sacred Summit to special your Taya back to the field, and then that helps you to get 3 synchros. And then not to mention that with your Longyun, now we're not going into Baron to Floor. We're just going to be going into the Sovereign Longyun guy. So overall, it's just kind of nice because then you're going to get that plus draw 1 off of having the Longyun Synchro on the field. So just really, really great. Would never want to cut this card. We've got 2 copies of the Heavenly Dragon Circle, and then also 1 copy of Vessel. As of now, since we don't have Baron de Floor, I think it's really important to make sure that you're focusing on your Tenyis. Also, these are another way to search for Protos, if you guys didn't know. But overall, having the Heavenly Dragon Cycle and the Vessel of the Dragon, or Vessel for the Dragon Cycle, is just really important because your Tenyi guys are going to help you to get into your Chaofeng if you're trying to dodge Nibiru, and so these just add you extra avenues into being able to get into those plays. We have 1 copy of Pot of Desires. I cut this down to 1 just because with having 1 copy of Protos in the deck, we're playing a couple of 1-ofs, but mainly the Protos, I just don't want to banish that. 1 copy of Triple Tactics Talent, and 1 copy of Thrust. Similar to Crossout Designator, I just don't really like those cards because they clog my hand, and so I also usually cut down Thrust and Talent to 1 copy apiece. I would maybe play 2 Talents, but definitely like playing it at these ratios. It never seems to be cloggy, and then with the Thrust, I can search for Desires, Talent, Sacred Summit, Blackout, whatever I really need to be able to break my opponent's board or set up really nicely. Overall, this has been working just amazing. And then we have our 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Really great for if you're going up against an Appaloosa, or your opponent is also playing a Protos deck, or Thunder Dragon Colossus, stuff like that. Really incredible. I wish I had room for Effect Veilers, but I feel like Effect Veiler just doesn't do enough against other decks, such as like Snake Eyes and whatnot. So for now, I've just been playing Imperm, and then 1 copy of Swordsoul Blackout as our 40th card in the deck. So overall, pretty standard. And then also another tip for all of the newer Swordsoul players who are just getting into it for Protos. If you guys didn't know, with Swordsoul Blackout, if you target Protos on the field, he can be targeted for the effect, but he can't be destroyed by card effects, so you can just use Blackout, target your Protos, it won't be destroyed, but your opponent's 2 targeted cards will get destroyed. So really incredible being able to make those kind of plays with Blackout. Getting into these synchros, we are playing our 2 copies of Chichao. Would never want to cut this down to 1. It would feel really, really risky, but it does feel like we're getting to the point where you're like, okay, I want to play more variations of monsters in the extra deck, but overall playing 2 Chi-Chow is just so necessary. And then also another big 2 of is your 2 copies of Boxia, 1 to be able to go into your Chow Fang, and then 1 is just a backup in case you need to bounce stuff later. And then just its special summon from graveyard effect is also just really amazing. We have the Draco Berserker of the Tenyi, which is just also just another incredible card. 1 copy of Adamancipator Risen Dragite, which is also just insane in here because we are main decking Nibiru, so you always want to play him when you're in a main deck Nibiru format, because if you ever do want to go into him and you still have like your 3 copies of Nib in deck, then you can like go into him and you can kind of go for a gamble trying to bounce something your opponent has on field. If that's going to help you to push like for damage in a game, amazing. And then if you can't get that damage, then you just have him on the field as a spell trap negate. And then my other just amazing card in here is Crimson Blader. This card, I would not want to cut this right now. If you don't have space for it, I would find it, because this card, not only is it a fire, because then you can lock out fire decks. Like I said, we got a couple in the extra deck here. It is a fire. And the other amazing thing is just being able to lock your opponent out of their level 5 or higher monsters on the next turn is just amazing. This has won me 2 matches, I know, in the last couple of weeks. Last week I won against Branded Chimera with this. Their entire extra deck is level 5 or higher monsters, so they just couldn't do anything. And then playing in the mirror match yesterday at locals, this helped me to stall out for 2 turns before it got Vashooted back to my extra deck. But yeah, 2 turns of like basically direct damage, I believe it was, locking out of level 5 or higher against another Swordsoul deck is just basically a death sentence. We have 1 copy of Yazi. This card also has just been incredible lately. You have ways to modulate your level with your Emergence and your Sacred Summit, and then you also just have the not-so-great play of, hey, I'm going to normal summon Ash Blossom, and I have Mo Yi on field, and now I can go into Yazi, but it does come up every now and then. And then we have our 1 copy of Chow Fang, being able to lock our opponent out of activating light monster effects, aka Nibiru. 1 copy of our Sovereign Longyun, and then 1 copy of the Chengying. I love these cards. Generally, I'm going to go into the Sovereign first, but Chengying is really amazing for helping to break boards or just if you've run out. But these are the only 12s I play. I don't really want to play like the Ice Jade guy or anything else, and you know, Nibiru, the Baron de Fleur is banned, so I think playing just these 2 has been perfectly fine. I haven't had any duels where I've like had my 3rd Longyun and I needed to extend and go into them. So overall, it's been perfectly fine just having these. Getting on into the last cards here, we have our Monk of the Tenyis. I like playing 3, but if I had SP Little Knight, which I don't, I would take one of these out for one of them. But the 3rd copy does come up tons and tons of times. It came up a lot yesterday at locals. And then for our last in the extra deck, we have Shaman of the Tenyi. And I do have side deck for you guys, so don't run away quite yet. So Shaman of the Tenyi, another really great card for helping to lock your opponent out of fires with Protos and whatnot. This card is just incredible. Absolutely love it. Getting on into the side deck, this is a new inclusion. I do have 3 copies of Solemn Judgment. This is probably the 1 card that I could be persuaded to like take out and change. This is basically for if I'm going first, and I know I'm going to be going first while we're going into siding. The only thing is that when you're going into time in Game 3, that this is pretty rough, paying that 4,000 life points. But this is going to stop you against the big board breakers. The main 4 that I always think of is you've got Lightning Storm, Evenly Matched, and then you've got Dark Ruler No More and Forbidden Droplet. This is going to be your best defense against all 4 of those cards. So if your opponent is looking to Dark Ruler No More your board and then break it, Solemn Judgment's just going to help you out there. Then we've got our 2 copies of Forbidden Droplet. This is just another card kind of in here like for the same reason as Heavenly Dragon Circle. If your opponent is trying to disrupt you with an Imperm or an Effect Veiler, you can just Droplet to get around those. And this does have applications for going first or second, the same as Called by the Grave. If you don't like this package with these cards, there is another line where you can just play the 3 Gravity Collapse and 2 copies of Synchro Zone. I decided to cut this because I don't feel like it's that good against 10 pies. And then also a lot of people have been playing just like the big board breakers as of lately, like Lightning Storm. So if I have Gravity Collapse on the field and my opponent Lightning Storms or Super Polys my board, then all of a sudden I have nothing, and then I just have no way of interrupting their turn. So for me, Solemn Judgment just felt a little bit better as of late. 1 copy of Harpy's Feather Duster and 2 copies of Lightning Storm, just for, you know, amazing board breaker cards. I just always side those 2 in when I'm going second, and they always seem to be glued to my hand. I love it. And then we got our 3 copies of Evenly Matched. This card has just been putting in so much work. This card is just amazing. Love it for being able to kind of neutralize your opponents. If you're playing up against an Appaloosa deck like Snake Eyes, it's not quite as good, but it still just works. And then also for decks like ones that put out Appaloosas, or just like two or three big guys that you can't get around, Lava Golem is just amazing. And then with the Lava Golem on field, you can still get around that with your Incredible Ecclesias, because that's going to allow you to special summon and then still do all of your plays, even though you lost your normal summon. So anyways, guys, that's going to do it for the deck profile. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Shout out to E.Cade, my locals. I've been playing this deck a lot there. Shout out to our sponsor, Mammoth Headwear. Very much love my sponsors, especially for sticking with me while I've been on hiatus from YouTubing. So, and thank you guys to all of you dudes out there who have been commenting on the videos and whatnot, checking in with me. Again, I appreciate it. We're going to figure out the Patreon situation here soon. And so I'll get Patreon set back up again, and we will go from there. But thank you guys again so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed this deck profile and want to see more, go ahead and leave me a comment down in the comment section below. I could do a combo video or a test hand video, and also just don't forget to subscribe. Thank you guys again so much for watching. Peace.